Hi. This is What If God is Actually Listening? I'm your host, Michelle Wargo, and I've found myself drawn to the moments in life that feel significant. The unexpected turns, the glimmers of hope in the darkest times, those uncanny coincidences that make you pause and wonder, could there be something else at play here? So join me. Let's listen together. Let's explore the incredible tapestry of human experience and consider the profound question: what if God is actually listening? Joining me today is actor, producer, Hollywood legend David Havner. He is a seasoned Hollywood filmmaker who has written, directed, produced, and starred in over 50 motion pictures. He has directed such Hollywood greats as Academy Award winner and nominees Martin Landau, Tony Curtis, and many others. His movies have premiered on HBO, Showtime, and major TV networks, and now he has davidhavner.tv. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Michelle, so good to be here with you. And I love the title of your show, What If God is Listening? That's Get you thinking on that one, doesn't it?
It does. It's the question that a lot of people have in their head. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's just ask people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. I was thinking about that. And one of the things that popped in my brain is maybe I hope he isn't listening to me half the time, some of the things I'm saying and showing my lack of faith and so forth. And you want God to listen, but also too, you're hoping you look back and go, man, I'm sure glad you didn't answer that prayer, God.
Yes.
That would have been a disaster, wouldn't it?
It's that song, God bless the broken road and
Yeah.
Garth Brooks unanswered prayers.
Yeah.
We think that life is going to go one way and then it completely changes. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're into now.
Yeah, I went out to Hollywood about 30 years ago and I was a songwriter. So I tried to get my music in movies, but they didn't care for my music, I guess. They thought I was an actor. So I did this impersonation of Clint Eastwood because I couldn't act. But I liked watching his movies, right? Well, I was good enough at the impression that they thought I could. And so I got the starring role in a Hong Kong movie, and it was a martial arts movie, and I couldn't even dance. But it became a hit, and so that kind of got me into the world of acting, filmmaking, and so I went on to make over 50 films with HBO and Showtime, starring with people like Tony Curtis, Martin Landau, directing and producing and writing. Michelle, and that was all God. People would look at me and go, "How in the world did you ever end up here?" With you know,
That's terrible.
yeah, and I said, my uncle, who's gone to be with the Lord now, he's from Israel. He came over to visit me, and every time something major would happen in my career, like another level up,
Mhm.
he would always say, "That's God, that's God." And to this day, I can hear him say, "That's God," and I never really processed it until God brought me into the world of Last Evangelist, which I'll talk about in a second. And now everything I do, I turn and say, "That's God," because God has a plan for each and every one of us. And when you see the supernatural come into the world of the natural, you have to say, "That's God," because God it only lives in the supernatural, right?
Yeah, it's crazy to think like when you're not looking for it, you don't see it. And then when it hits you over the head, I call it a Godsmack, but there's that group now that's named Godsmack. But, God doesn't gently lead me anywhere. He just smacks me right and gets me back on the right track, right? And it doesn't have to be something serious. Like maybe it's just a change in career path, but whatever it is, there's this redirection and then it lines up and the next step and the next step. Like it all keeps coming when you're following in what God wants for you instead of ignoring the signs, right?
It does, and it's uncomfortable. I always tell people, being comfortable is a slow road to death. And in some cases, when it comes to the lukewarm Christianity, it's a slow road to hell. So I always tell people, look, if you're not feeling the bumps, then you're not really going up in the airplane. speaking spiritually. You got to, every time you go up on a plane, you'll go through the clouds and you'll feel the turbulence. So
Ooh, I like that.
we all have an assignment, and we all have to keep moving up. We can't stay comfortable. Lord knows we shouldn't go down. So that's what happened about 7 years ago when God gave me The Last Evangelist before the pandemic. And it was I wrote it. It was a 6-part miniseries called Last Evangelist, where I play a cop that busted underground churches for not registering with the government because there's a virus. And until one night I hear God's voice, I go blind. So with the Bible in one hand, a gun in the other, I set out to find the Antichrist. And it deals with current issues married to Bible prophecy.
Mm.
Each episode we do, and we're just releasing the third episode. Episode 1 and 2 is on davidheavener.tv if anybody wants to watch it. And episode 3 will be out next month.
Well, and you have a whole network of production and shows and
Do.
like, how do you keep on, like, how did that all come to be? Was it you started with this idea and then, doors just kept opening and people kept bringing you products or like,
Now it was God. About 10 years ago, when I left Hollywood and I committed my life to the Lord in ministry, I thought I'd just be a preacher. I thought I'd just have a church and, like an ordinary preacher, people come in and I tried that. I tried it. But God said, this is not your church, that your church is the film industry and the ministry you have within that industry. And then he told me 7 years ago, he said, you're going to have a big social media following. And I didn't even have a YouTube channel. I had nothing, maybe it was 8 years ago. And over a period of 2 to 3 years, I had almost 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And some of my videos were up to a couple million views. And this opened the door to marketing Last Evangelist. So when I finally filmed it, we were able to get it out amongst the people and get it. And by the way, we fund it through a crowdfunding, Michelle. If people want to go to lastevangelist.com, they can donate and they can become an actor or producer or just special thanks. And this is how we've been able to get this going. So again, that's God.
mm-hmm.
That's God. It's a miracle.
It's crazy to think that, we've heard stories before, and when you're living a secular life and people show up at your door or tell you something like, hey, God told me that you were struggling, here's $20 or whatever it was. Like, you hear these stories over and over again and you're just like, are these people crazy? Like, I don't know you. Why are you coming to my house and giving me $20? But when you take a step out and you look at spirituality and the universe and how we're all connected and God's love is what connects us all, well, then, yeah, why couldn't he talk to somebody and tell them, hey, you are a messenger, go let this person know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And like your story of how, you have these skills and you were in the film industry and you thought you were going to pivot and you were going to preach just as like a small community preacher, not online preacher like you do now.
Mm-hmm.
And God was like, no, you have these skills. I knew you before you knew you. I want you to use these skills in your way to get the message out there. And that just gives me chills because that's what's happening for me right now.
Absolutely. It's like the scenario of little David when he went to fight Goliath, right? Saul gave him his armor to walk around, and David couldn't even walk in it. It was too heavy for him. He took it off. He said, this is not my weapon. I've got my weapon. This is my slingshot. Well, to Saul, and I'm sure to the Israel armies of the Israelites, they would look at that and go, this kid's going to get creamed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you see, each person has a weapon. I have one, you have one. When God issues an assignment, he gives you a special weapon that no one else can use. Only you can use it. Only you are trained in the spiritual world to use it. You don't even know it because you are born with the innate ability to use this weapon.
Yep.
The problem is I was trying to use somebody else's weapon when I got into the ministry. I was trying to be like a preacher, right?
Hmm.
And that wasn't my weapon. Was not my MO. And so that's when God stopped me. He says, no, no, give the armor back to Saul, and you get your slingshot out, which was my filmmaking ability, my
Yeah.
storytelling, and get out there and start killing the giants, And so that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's more than one way to be a preacher, right? And that's what you found because you're spreading the message through creative means where maybe somebody who is watching doesn't even think about the underlying story, right? But then it sits with them and then they've just heard you preach through your art.
Hmm. Yeah, that. Yes, absolutely. And we've done screenings all over the country. And the biggest screening I ever had was in Los Angeles. I had people run up to me after we screened episode one who weren't even Christians. They were Jews, Muslims, atheists, whatever. They said, David, this is the best thing you ever done. I love the message. And I said, well, to a few of them, I said, can you qualify that? And they said, well, we are, I'm not a Christian, so they say, but I've never seen the God you're talking about. I've
Mm.
never seen anyone with a relationship with God like this character, or a struggle. And they said, we like that, like the fact the government's coming against the people, no matter who you are. So you see what that does, that gives me a platform now to talk to people. We've won awards all over the country. We're
Yeah.
up to 27 awards on Last Evangelist. And every time I get an award, if I can, I'll get up in front of people and I always give God the credit. I say, thank you to my executive producer, which is my Father in heaven. And this is even at secular,
Mhm.
film festivals. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity now to talk about God, not preach, but to talk about God and evangelize in the way God wants me to do it.
Well, and I think that's you come up to barriers, right? Because like you just said, you know, we call him God. We say it's a him. We I mean, if you are of another faith and you don't know Jesus, then you say Allah or you say, but it's all love. It's all spirit, right? It's the message of coming together and whatever you want to believe for yourself, the bigger picture is that we are all one, in my
We are,
opinion.
yeah. It's a good place to start. Of course, at the end of the day, I believe, for me, that the way to the Father is through Jesus Christ. Not the Jesus a lot of people know. You see, this is the difference.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't really know Jesus. They know that Jesus in some church somewhere, uh,
Right.
some building, and not all churches are bad. But I do come against the church system. I don't like
Hmm.
the religious system, But that's why people go, well, how can Muslims die and you're okay with that, or how can Mormons die and not confess Jesus or whatever? And I go, well, first of all, people that say they're Christians, they die. A lot of them don't really know Jesus. They
Yes,
think they
exactly.
do. Number two, a lot of people that you think you won't see in heaven, you will, because they did accept Jesus, but you didn't know about it. I didn't know about it, Jesus came to them in in His own way of
Right.
doing it. So, but you know what? We have to start from a place of love. We have to start from a place of unity. We have to, because otherwise you got nowhere to go. All you'll end up doing is getting into wars, debates, and
And look
all
at
that.
where we are.
Look, yeah, yeah. Look where we are. That's why I think we're in a new paradigm shift here of spiritual awareness. I could go into things. I'm sure we don't have time to,
Let's do
but
it.
but
That's my
well,
whole thing is that the
yeah,
spirituality of it, right?
yeah.
If you're
Well,
not ready for the message, then
yeah,
the message needs to change.
yeah. Well, with Last Evangelist, my character, the thing is, a lot of Christian films, this is not a Christian, you can call it a Christian TV series because I'm a Christian and it's about faith and about Christianity being attacked. But But my character doesn't just go out and see God and get on his knees, give his life to Jesus and start preaching the gospel. He doesn't do that because that's not real a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times. It doesn't, that's not, it does happen sometimes, don't get me wrong, but not normally. So my character is a very tough guy. Show me, I need to see something, God. Who are you? Show me what's going on. He thought he knew God. He thought he was religious, but then he realized God is much bigger than what he thought it could be. And he realized that the government is coming against people that don't agree with the government. So he says, okay, I'm seeing now that the government I worked for is actually on the side of the Antichrist. So now he's a warrior. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so he goes through these journeys. And the reason I'm saying this is you guys have to watch it if you want to see this journey I go through, because I tell you, it's not been like any other series you've ever watched. He goes through a lot of things. He sees things now. He sees things. A lot of people call them seers, but I don't like to use that word. He sees things in the spirit. He hears things. He feels things, and he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand that he's been lifted to a higher plane now, and that he is experiencing things of God, and God's trying to communicate with him. He doesn't really understand that, but he's available for it. He'll follow wherever it needs to go. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, through this research of writing these episodes, I actually have been watching, and I preach against New Age, meaning I preach against people that go out into la la land and do all these crazy things. I'm not on that board for that, but I will tell you that the manifestation, art of manifestation, the art of understanding that we're all connected, our brain is connected, we're a transmitter, we're a receiver.
Yep.
They talk about this more than Christianity
Yep.
talks about it. And Christianity should be the first people talk about because Jesus talked about it. Do you see what I'm saying? I
Yes.
thought I got to be careful, Michelle, not to go down this rabbit hole because a lot of people will want to assassinate me if I can't really spend time explaining it. But
Well, and
God,
that's what sparked me wanting to do this show, right? Because
yeah,
there are churches, there are Catholic churches, there are Lutheran churches, there are the New Age churches, and I've gone to all of them. I've studied world religions. Like I find it all fascinating, but they all have the same thread in them, right? And
yeah,
it's like whatever God means to you in whatever way he's communicating to you, that's what we want to know about because that's what people can relate to. It doesn't matter if you what I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what you're calling it when you're talking about it because
yeah,
it's what you and God share together.
yeah,
But like you said, you come up against the church, you come up against the crazy Christians or, like what they think it's supposed to be, but that's not it. If you have a relationship with Jesus, then that's you and him.
yeah, exactly. That's right. Um, that's why I I couldn't go when I did Last Evangelist. I couldn't go to the Christian distributors because they would go, David, it's not religious enough, meaning you're out of the box. You're
Hmm.
not, this. And I couldn't go to the studios in Hollywood because it was a little bit too much. So I had to go to the people. God said, go to my people. There's people out there that I'm going to assign to you that's going to pray for you, going to help you, encourage you, going to help you financially. And I said, okay, God, I'll do that. So I set up this crowdfunding site out of the blue, and people did come, and people are still coming, not as much as used to because I've been slow getting these episodes out, but I'm praying it'll kick back up again. But it's lastevangelist.com, and that's how people can get plugged in, not only donating, but then I know who you are. So then I've involved some of these people in my production, and they've been on the set saying, man, I'm so blessed with this. And I'll say to them, are you a Christian? They'll go, I don't call myself a Christian.
Hmm.
I said, but you donated to this. They go, yeah. I go, why? I said, well, I feel like God told me to. And I said, but I thought you said you weren't a Christian. And I caught myself talking religious. You see what I'm saying? I
Yep.
said, of course. So God is bigger than the Christianity that we know. Now,
Correct.
I got to be careful. I'm not talking about real Christianity. I'm not talking about Christ. I'm talking about God is bigger than the church buildings, than the denominations, than the traditions, than the doctrines. God doesn't like that. He moves on and leaves these people behind.
Well, and I feel like we're in the dawning of this, right? Like you got this idea right before the pandemic. Have you noticed that your shows, like m the inspiration that you get, then it turns out to be like it happens?
Yeah, well, let me give an example. Episode one I wrote, and it was about a lockdown of the church.
Hmm.
Okay. Episode two I wrote, now this is before the pandemic. Episode two I wrote was about a vaccine they administered called the insertion, the T1714. That's episode two. That's out. You can watch it. And then there's a character uh, called Fowler. Now, Fowler matches Fauci, but I have to tell you, it wasn't originally Fowler. It was something like, I don't know, Anderson or something, but I made it closer to Fowler. But still, the idea was there. Three, coming out next month, is about artificial intelligence, is
Sci-fi,
about,
I'm here for it.
yeah, well, I'm ready for it. As a matter of fact, I'm in it now. I use it. But it's about how it's being used right now to control people and in ways that most people wouldn't even think about. I mean, it's bizarre, but that's episode three.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure
yeah,
if you're researching it, you're probably like, I don't know if you're like me, but you get down so far down the rabbit hole that you scare yourself with the new information that you have learned. And you're just like, whoa, that just changed my entire worldview.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I do enjoy Chat GBT, and I use it on a very primitive level, but I'm really enjoying it. I don't see how it could ever, in the way I'm using it, be detrimental or the
Hmm.
way a young person would use it. It's only when someone wants to use it to hurt or control somebody else. And this is my concern, is that if people don't really wake up and start walking with the real God,
Hmm.
they're going to get sucked into this. Okay. They will get sucked into it because another pandemic will happen, another event. People are going to get scared. They'll have needs and so forth. And then this thing will pop up going, I can solve all your problems.
Hmm.
But
There's definitely a big divide. Like you can see it growing, right?
right.
Of the believers or the people who are being activated to share their truths, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
if I'm making any sense, but
No, you are to me, and that's what's kind of scary. And for you, it should be scary that I can relate to you. But we're all in a journey, and just getting back to my journey because you're interviewing me,
yes,
uh,
sir.
must be something you want to know. It's not an easy path doing this TV series because you don't really have any close allies. You have a few, and the ones you have, you cherish. But you don't have, I don't have the religious system because they don't really want to talk about what I'm talking about, or they don't understand it. And I don't really have the world because there's no sex, no nudity. I'm not blowing people to smithereens, so there's none of that kind of stuff. So I'm in a space that's very interesting. Okay, it's very interesting where I don't have many allies, and I'm in a war zone, and you never know who the enemy is and who the foe or who the friend is,
Mm.
which is really a good thing for me because it keeps me on my toes, it keeps me praying, it keeps me humble, and it keeps me thankful, you
Well,
know.
and it keeps you in that creative space too, because when you're uneasy, that's when some of the best work comes, right?
It does. Well, matter of fact, my best work comes from pain.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh gosh, tell me about it.
yeah, I mean, I was a songwriter in Nashville before I was a filmmaker. I had some hit records and country music, and I don't know if you listen to country, but it's all about pain.
Heartache. Yeah.
Yeah, it's heartache. You know, people's hearts are broken and pain, and so I come from that I had a lot of pain in my childhood, and maybe it's a way I can somehow come to terms with some of the stuff I went through. But also I look at other people and I see what they've gone through and their
Mm,
pain, and so I like to create from that point of view that someone else can watch this and they can get some little morsel of reconciliation or comfort or understanding, you know. And I think with Last Evangelist, it does that because I've had people, but they're out of the box, come to
mm,
me and say, David, I'm hooked. It's the best thing I've ever seen. Um, and I'm not saying that because I'm making it. It's just different. That's all.
right.
And these are people that are out of the box. They're not your typical, you know, Christianese type stuff and whatever. And so I know I'm doing something right. I want to keep doing it if I can.
Yeah. Do you feel like because you're impacting people, like you just said, right? People that you wouldn't expect to have a strong reaction to what you're creating are having such a reaction. Do you see this as, a step towards something else, right? Because you're saying that, you don't fit in this box, you don't fit in this box, but you're creating your own community, and that community and the fact that you are working on, you're perfecting your writing, you're perfecting how you're shooting the shows, you're perfecting how you're getting them out to the public. Like this is all lining you up for the next huge thing.
Mm,
And
thank
so
you.
don't forget that, right? There's the learning and the struggle and the
Mm,
growth that happens that God is aligning you for getting you ready for the next thing.
thank you for that. I appreciate that. I received that because I got
Yeah,
goosebumps and
I
stuff.
know. I got him
Uh,
saying it too.
yeah. You're right. You're right. You see, going to the Hollywood analogy, which is where I come from, the days of Hollywood are over.
Yeah.
The big movies, for the most part, are over. People are tired of them. Even movies that are an hour and a half long. I don't know if you're like me. You ever go on Netflix and these other flicks and you see a billion movies and you scroll and you don't even know which one to click. And when you do, they're usually bad, you know,
Yeah.
or they're like the next movie. They're
It's
all a
all the
lot.
same over
They're
and
all the
over
same.
again.
If
Yeah.
I tell my wife, I see one more movie about a drug deal in a warehouse, a crooked FBI agent. If I see one more of those, I'm just going to give up on the whole thing. So, and I do, I give up on it. So I go back and watch reruns of Dick Van Dyke, Leave It to Beaver, and Archie Bunker, and I get more out of that than I do anything else. But getting back to my point,
I love Dick Van Dyke.
I do too. I
Mary
really.
Tyler Moore is like I love her.
Oh yeah, I love that show. So um, things are changing, and I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, but I see the direction of it. People are going to start watching more stuff on their phones, on their computers, less on their TV, and the stuff will be shorter. That's why
Yeah.
I'm making 30-minute episodes. They'll be shorter. They may even be shorter than 30 minutes. You'll see episodics come out, and they'll be very popular. You know, the studios won't know what to do. They're going through a place right now where they're confused. It's like an old automobile factory in, I don't know, Detroit. They don't know what to do anymore because it's all outdated. So I think somebody like me, if God keeps me in the game, which I believe He will, he'll give me some ideas and things to write about and things to do that will be able to affect people.
I feel
Um,
like you are a blessed agitator who's here to shake things up and make people like pay attention and think something that they wouldn't have thought before.
I got to make a note of that, Michelle. Blessed agitator. Okay. I've been referred to a lot of things. That's a new one, so I'm going to make a note. I'm a blessed agitator.
There you
Thank you.
go.
Thank you. Thank you for that compliment. I'm a blessed agitator. Okay, good.
You are most welcome.
Yeah, yeah. So no.
Um, I was gonna say when you were talking about smaller segments, there was something that I was doing with a TV station years ago, and we were putting them all on. We were breaking down the half-hour TV show into 8-minute blocks. And then that way it's easily consumable. It's enough time for you to get into the topic, but then you can also take subjects that match that and build something that way too. Like
You know what?
it's not linear anymore, it's stackable.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I thought about that. Not 8 minutes, but maybe 15 minutes, or since it's 30 minutes, maybe 10 minutes long.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, if you don't have commercials, then you can make them 10.
yeah, right. If you're not restricted to that, but yeah, like say take 10 minutes of a 30-minute section of Last Evangelist, and it hopefully it ends on a cliffhanger, so
Mm.
people want to see the next 10. But around that, you put a few other shows that they can watch as a bundle, so it's more of an event type thing, and that way you're kind of, I don't want to use the word carefully, you're kind of milking the 30 minutes, getting more out of it
Yes.
than just somebody sitting watching it all the way through. I
Well, and
like,
I think you get more of a connection with your audience that way. And the
yeah,
audience feels like they're more of a part of the production, even though
right.
your audience actually is a part of your production. But you know what I mean?
Yep, yep, yep. No, I do. I do know what you mean. And thank you. It's certainly an honor and blessing. And I need to call you because I'm looking at maybe moving up around your area and continue filming Last Evangelist up there.
Yeah, come on down.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today.